I am fucking stupid.
Resident Evil has a long, sordid history when it comes to bad live-action adaptations. So, naturally when I saw this one pop up on Netflix, I couldn't help but watch it. And hoo boy, it somehow managed to exceed all my expectations. So much so, in fact, I had to stop working on my Alan Wake video just to talk about why this one is so special.
I'm a writer, goddammit. Correct!
The show starts out by introducing Jade, our lead protagonist, as she studies zombies in a post-apocalyptic London in the year 2036. Zombies, or Zeros as they are called in the show, have apparently lost the ability to see or hear, but have a heightened sense of smell because I guess the T-Virus decided that sight and hearing were not super important in helping its hosts be the best vectors they can be. So naturally, when Jade accidentally cuts herself and starts bleeding, all the Zeros smell the blood and Naruto run at her. Fortunately, or unfortunately depending on how you look at it, she manages to get back to her base camp and kill all the pursuing Zeros with some traps she'd set up earlier. Only for a giant mutated caterpillar to burst from the ground and roar menacingly at her. We then cut to the year 2022, showing a young Jade, her fraternal twin sister Billy, and her father, Albert Wesker, driving into the gated community of New Raccoon City.
They've got kombucha on tap.
After they navigate their way through the city, Billie Eilish music blasting and getting the audience into a proper teenage girl mindset.
Amazing!
They eventually arrive at their new home, where they are welcomed by a, real estate lady? To whom Jade talks to like a real person and not at all like a caricature of a teenager written by someone who probably has not spoken to one since he was one himself.
And you know, last year we were voted best place to live in the world.
By who? Lululemon Horse? Guys that jerk off to CrossFit?
Elon Musk.
Anyways, I think you all get the picture. The show tells its story by jumping back and forth between the years 2022 and 2036. Umbrella's up to no good in 2022, young Jade and Billy get caught up in it, Wesker is acting sus. During the years 2036 in the post-apocalypse, Jade's trying to find a way to fix the world, Umbrella's still up to no good, and Jade gets caught up in it again. Billy at some point joins Umbrella, there's an uninspired post-apocalyptic setting everyone has seen a billion times, and there's a cliffhanger ending for both timelines setting up for a second season. Blah 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 blah. As many of you may have deduced by now, I am of the mind that this show is dog shit.
And plenty of room to run and play.
Right. I mostly just read Zootopia porn, so.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
And anyone else who has watched it that hasn't learned how to unhinge their jaw so as to be able to fit the entirety of Netflix's
generously gifted sandwiches
into their mouth would probably tell you the same. So why even talk about it? Why even watch past the first episode and subject yourself to about 8 hours of bullshit? For two reasons. The first being that I am actually a bit impressed by how awful the show is, and think it is an achievement worth recognizing. The second reason is that I grew up with Resident Evil, making absolute trash fires like this especially special in all the wrong ways. So let's start by talking about how Andrew Dabb, the showrunner behind this monstrosity, did Wesker dirty. But wait, there's 3 clones of Wesker in this, so there's 4 whole Weskers to choose from. He unironically used clones to make his shitty plot work. What a fucking bad lad. So which Wesker am I talking about? Well, based Wesker died in a volcano before the events of the show. But he killed the less than 3 minutes of screen time Wesker during a flashback, while silly Wesker got imprisoned by Umbrella and only appears in the last few episodes. Which leaves Cringe Wesker, who decided to work for Umbrella as a scientist and is the father of the show's lead characters, Jade and Billy. Cringe Wesker it is! But before anything else, let's address the first thing most people will notice about this version of Wesker. Something rather polarizing, I dare say. Some people seem to be upset Lance Reddick was cast as Wesker because video game Wesker has always been of the unmelanated variety. But honestly, I don't think changing a character's race or whatever is really an issue here because this is an adaptation and not a remake. Meaning that not everything needs to be one for one, and staying true to the original character's personality and ideals is what really matters. And as far as I know, being white is not an integral part of Wesker's character, so him being black is, I don't know, it doesn't fucking matter all that much. To be clear though, if this were instead, I don't know, a faithful retelling of Resident Evil 1, then casting Lance Reddick as Wesker would be weird in the same way it would be weird to cast Randall Park to star in a remake of Shaft. So, can anyone guess what my problem with Cringe Wesker is? That's right, his personality is literally nothing like his video game counterpart. Okay, so in the show he used genetic engineering on his daughters before they were born to make them smarter, healthier, and have special blood that counteracts the eventual lethal side effects of him being a clone, of which he has been secretly injecting himself with all their lives. Alright, so far so good, right? Wesker in the games is a selfish megalomaniacal asshole who consistently does anything and everything to further his interests, so experimenting on his unborn children and using them to extend his life lines up, right? Yes, that would indeed be something Wesker might do. But something he would not do is genuinely care about those children and want to be a loving father to them. Which Cringe Wesker does! He even blows himself up to save them in a heroic sacrifice. Sad Billie Eilish music playing and everything.
When I was older.
He's a clone though. He doesn't even have to behave like Wesker. Shut up. Cringe Wesker spends by far the most time on screen out of all the Weskers and is the representation of Wesker for this adaptation, and nothing you say is going to change that. Actually, as I'm writing the script for this, I'm just now realizing the clone shit means the people responsible for this dumpster fire knew this isn't how the character should act, and a conscious decision was made to find a way to make this version of Wesker. I mean, like, why even use Wesker if you wanted a character with a completely different personality? The only people who would even recognize the name are those who played the games or saw the trashy live-action movies. And I find it hard to believe that any one of those people would associate either versions with this.
I want Pornhub to shred your resume.
How did you think anyone would like this, Dab? The worst part is that it would not have even been hard to fix this version of Wesker. Drop the fucking clones. Make the secret blood transfusions give him T-virus superpowers or suppress the negative side effects of it. Reveal that he's just been pretending to give a shit about Jade and Billy. Dive into the psychology of the character if you want to. And have him become an antagonist when he's found out to only view Jade and Billy as guinea pigs. There, it's that fucking easy. Sadly though, applying that fix would be like trying to melt a mountain of ice with a space heater, because Wesker's only the tip of the shitty adaptation iceberg. It feels like nobody in the writing room has ever actually played through a Resident Evil game before, not even the showrunner. I guess maybe doing research beyond perusing wikis for 10 minutes was too much to expect. Anyways, I feel like you all get the picture, and because the sheer amount of badly implemented Resident Evil lore is staggering, I'm going to leave it at that and be a bit more inclusive. What about the people who are not fucking nerds? The ones who don't know much about Resident Evil and were just unfortunate enough to stumble upon this monument to misery. Is this series terrible for people like that too? Yes it is, but don't take my word for it. Let's take a moment to discuss the other stuff. This show's production values range anywhere from decent modern TV series to early 2010 sci-fi channel show. Look at that set. The lighting. Soldiers of the future wearing this. Notice how their helmets cannot withstand the pressure of being stepped on. Really gives it that flimsy plastic feel. There's also hilarious makeup, insane costume designs, and apparently zooming in on something can change the camera angle. To be honest, every technical aspect of this show is a mess. Except for maybe the music. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Billie Eilish is objectively bad or anything. I do think that it is a bit out of place for Resident Evil though. But what about the narrative and writing? Ooh man, this is where the show really stands out for me. I mentioned earlier that Jade was more or less a caricature of a teenager, but this extends to her sister as well, which makes the show occasionally reach levels of teenage girl angst I haven't seen since Edge of 17.
I'm whatever. Sick.
and you're just crushing on some dick.
Now, having angsty teenagers isn't really an issue. They can definitely be edgy little dipshits. The problem is when edge is their defining characteristic, because it turns them into unlikable bags of drama that people stop relating to after the millionth obnoxiously exaggerated bit of dialogue. The overall tone is also incredibly screwed up. Resident Evil games are known to be usually more or less serious, with the occasional bit of goofy campiness sprinkled in.
I've been expecting you, my brethrens.
No thanks, bro.
This show attempts to emulate that, but fails miserably because somebody doesn't understand that characters need to be likable for goofiness to land properly and stand out in a good way, instead of coming off as something jarring and weird. One of their OCs, Baxter, was the show's biggest font of jarring weirdness. He even had his own musical gun-fu scene, complete with groovy music. It's so fucked up. This is one of the only scenes approaching being fun. A+ work, Dab. Which brings me to the overwhelmingly stupid depiction of technology, science, and miscellaneous bullshit. People apparently can be controlled with precision through the use of drugs, electrodes, and a tablet.
Wanna see you do a backflip?
Umbrella, the most powerful pharmaceutical company in the world, gets its firewall hacked by a self-taught teenager.
I told myself I've lived in Umbrella housing pretty much my whole life.
Pathetic pandering to anime fans in which nobody cared enough to figure out how to pronounce basic weeb shit, or even sound out the word.
It's this super hard to get anime. Not that hard, it's on Naya.
Bitch, this isn't magic. Where the fuck are you, Dab? You're the showrunner. What are you doing? Or director, or anybody? Like, am I fucking crazy or something? How the fuck did none of them hear this? But my absolute favorite thing is how the writers either don't remember some of the things they've written, or they think the audience has too much brain damage to remember what characters say during important scenes. For example, here in 2036, Billy says her and Jade's dad died asking for Jade. But then at the very end of the show, in 2022, cringe Wesker sacrifices himself to save teenage Billy and Jade, complete with sad Billie Eilish music, implying that the audience is supposed to believe him to be dead. These two things contradict each other, because Billy's line implies he died sometime after 2022, yet we're supposed to think he blew himself up in 2022, because that's what the sad music is implying.
I was a sailor.
This means the writers either forgot they gave adult Billy that line about cringe Wesker asking for Jade, they didn't give a shit, or they decided to kill him off later in production but didn't want to redo the 2036 scene and were hoping the audience would just turn their brain off and forget about it.
We want to make you care about these people, so when bad things do happen to them, you're like, oh my god, I don't want that to happen.
Which is fair, I suppose, because I'm willing to bet more than a few people out there were saying, just turn your brain off and have a good time. But honestly, I tried doing just that, and my mind ended up wandering. The show just white noise until a loud sound grabbed my attention, only for me to realize I had no idea what the fuck was going on. The turn your brain off argument doesn't work here because there still needs to be something to engage with, such as well done action scenes or interesting visuals, and as you can probably guess, this shit show is almost entirely devoid of such things, and it doesn't even work as a good show to have on in the background because of all the loud noises. All that said though, Lance Reddick really wasn't that bad in this. There were some issues sometimes, but I can't really blame him because of how poor the writing and directing was. He's a goddamn trooper and he deserved better, and I think he could have pulled off playing Wesker if Dab and the other writers actually gave a shit. Anyways, it's clear the people who made this show were banking on name recognition to carry it, that it'd be automatically a success because of the built-in audience. However, what they and many others fail to realize is that while there is potential for a big payout, adapting something with a built-in audience also brings with it a lot of risk and scrutiny. The reason for this is because that built-in audience are fans of the IP being adapted, and will react more negatively to it being low-effort trash than they would to something unrelated. Like, if this had been a random zombie show, I feel most people would have just discarded it into the ever-growing dump of bad Netflix shows and never think about it again. But because this is an adaptation of a beloved franchise, that disinterest instead became widespread criticism and mocking, because no one likes seeing something they enjoy being turned out by no-talent assholes looking to make easy money.
Pinky promise?
The fucked up part is that said no-talent assholes really do make easy money off of stuff like this. Guess which company produced this? That's right, Constantine. And look what else they've made. Yeah, look at all that money. On a side note, I find it absolutely hilarious that Constantine has produced not one, not two, but 3 janky continuities for Resident Evil. For the love of God, Capcom, please cut ties with them. But you know what? I'm actually starting to feel pretty hopeful for the future, in that people are starting to move in the right direction and expressing how they feel about low-effort garbage. Yep, things are looking up. Anyways, the 2022 Resident Evil adaptation sucked sweaty ass. And if you're considering watching it because you're hungry for more Resident Evil stuff, I urge you to look anywhere else. Play one of the mini games. Watch the CGI adaptations. Maybe not this one though. Watch lore videos and video essays on YouTube. Shit, go check out the many titillating fan animations out there. Just anything but this. So, is this steaming pile of shit good? The people who made this show should honestly feel embarrassed, and it's really depressing they're considered professionals. Okay, bye.
Please don't stop the flow. I drift tonight with wandering church. I will be of this universe. I drift tonight.
I am fucking stupid.